allow me to welcome you to the capital of Somalia, Mogadishu, a historical city once known as the Pearl of the Indian Ocean, a city that was once the support base for freedom and independence fighters from nations across the African continent, but above all, a city that represents the spirit of adventure, determination, unity, and innovation of the Somali people. For those of you who have been here in Mogadishu before, I would hope the aerial view of the city as the plane approached Mogadishu gave you a glimpse of the rejuvenation of the city. Indeed, Mogadishu, like the phoenix, is once again rising from the ashes, a harbinger of the Somali people's determination to realize stability, prosperity, and peace. The aspiration of the Somali people for stability and self-reliance as a nation has been the driving force of the policies of this administration, administrations before it, and indeed those to follow. Put it simply, the Somali people will not accept anything less than realizing, taking full responsibility for the security of this nation as quickly as possible. Your Excellencies, those working in Somalia with the consent of the federal government of Somalia, Your Excellencies, the Somali nation owes so much to our African brothers, spearheaded by the African Union. But above all, the young men from our brotherly nations who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in support of the Somali nation's goals of realizing stability. The depth of gratitude for those brave fighters from AMISON contingents who stood shoulder to shoulder with the young brave men of the Somali National Army to dislodge extremists from this city and beyond will forever be part of the fabric of our nation. In fact, realizing a full handover of security to Somali security forces will be a testament to the sacrifice of the heroes who have fallen. This is the reason why the federal government of Somalia has formulated the Somali Transition Plan and articulated its position that all partners, particularly our brothers in the AU and AMISON, must fully work towards achieving. Your Excellencies, the Somali Transition Plan provides not only clarity in how security transition is to be conducted, but also a clear break from an AMISON mission solely focused on security and a new AU mission able to support Somalia under the new political, governance, social, and security dispensation. However, what will not be accepted by the Somali nation is foot-dragging, misrepresentation, and delays that hinder the implementation of a successful security transfer from AU mission to Somali security forces, particularly from those working in Somalia with the consent of the federal government of Somalia. Your Excellencies, for the sake of clarity, the position of the federal government of Somalia remains support to Somalia under a new African Union mission and its components post-2021 will be contingent upon the acceptance of the FGS. Somalia will not accept a new AU mission that does not accept Somali leadership and thrives on incoherency and politicization of peace operation, nor should it be accepted by the Peace and Security Council of the African Union. The post-AMISON African Union mission must be one able to work effectively with Somalia's leadership to achieve the goals that have been set. Such a mission will require the ability to support simultaneously combat operations, stabilization operations, and humanitarian efforts. This is the perspective Somalia will assess the viability of any mission going forward, and it's a view Somalia expects both the African Union Commission and the Peace and Security Council to fall fully behind. Indeed, it was to honor the sacrifice of the African young men who have shed blood, sweat, and tears with us that the FGS worked with the African Union Commission to formulate a joint position going forward, which would have in turn enabled us to effectively engage with our international partners, both the UN and the EU as a quartet. Your Excellencies, significant progress in developing the CONOPS, concept of operations, was made, a key component of the UN Security Council mandate, as well as operationalizing the articulation of the STP. However, regrettable, the PSC chose to ignore this positive development by adopting an option which the FGS has unequivocally rejected due to its impracticality, but above all, one that signals a message of regression rather than a move forward. Your Excellencies, you see here, the hybrid option that you chose brings more troops, while the STP that we would like to have reduces the current force. This is the biggest difference we have. We want less force, not more. We want a much more effective approach to combating terrorism and strengthening Somali force, and that is the STP. A credible mechanism for peace and security remains crucial to this region and the continent as a whole, but such a credibility cannot be maintained if the African Union mechanism allows for member states to be both part of any peace mission and at the same time be part of the PSC. The lessons here in Somalia is that we must be careful of conflict of interest in developing. Your Excellency, in your opening statement, you talked about for 15 years of hosting the African Union, and we do certainly have solid experience in this area. Otherwise, it remains dubious how the PSC can be impartial and assess the merits of any mission without the interference of short-term national interest. It is regrettable the PSC is yet to endorse the STP as articulated under the UN Security Council AMISON mandate. Your Excellencies, the simple truth remains no options can be viable without the approval of the host nation, and the STP remains the position of the federal government of Somalia, not only under the this administration, but also future administrations. The Somali nation is united in seeking to realize the responsibility for its own security, and irrespective of election politics or otherwise, this will remain constant. Therefore, the force components within a future AU mission will not be predetermined under any option, but rather determined by the need against the capability offered, and equally importantly, the political viability of the proposed contingent of the African Union mission. This is the unequivocal position of the Somali nation. Somalia can't afford the dithering and blame game of the past. We expect decisiveness and support from the PSC. rather than being a force to make a unilateral decision. Finally, and once again, I'd like to thank you for visiting our capital after a long time. And as Your Excellency said, this in itself is an indication of the willingness to listen and to find a way forward. We're here today not to merely make statements, but to really have a good discussion so that we may find a way to move forward.